The reality is that our history is ever present with us. And so many of our ancestors spent so much of their time in survival mode that they didn't have the privilege to pursue health and wellness. In fact, I think health and wellness may have been just but a dream, a wildest dream, if we can even get to the space where we could be free, where we can be have our equal rights in this society. Then we've survived and overcome. And so now we're in a space where we can actually pursue that. But the reality is our history is ever present in front of us. So what happens when our history is ever present? We end up replicating what we see. Right? Many of us have come from families, I will speak for myself, of survivors, resilient, strong, get it done by any means necessary, right? There was no let's pause to check in. How are you doing? How are you centering yourself? What types of boundaries are you implementing? In what ways are you maybe overly stressed? What types of coping mechanisms are you using? How are you identifying your anxiety and managing your anxiety? How are you disengaging from chronic stressors and toxic workplaces? These are all questions that I recognize that I am privileged to be able to ask myself, one, by virtue of my profession, but two, because of the community in which I'm surrounded by. But oftentimes that is not the truth. That is not the reality for everyone. And I see that all the time in my practice. A lot of times when I'm talking to people about being intentionally well, they're asking me, Dr. Hill, what's the model? I don't have a model of wellness. And then when we do see a model of wellness, we see these images of Zen, aromatherapy, spas, massages that we cannot relate to. We don't see any representation in that. So we internalize and believe wellness isn't for me. That's not a thing for me. And so then I'm going to just replicate the script that I've seen so far. So generations later, a lot of what we've learned is that survival, that resiliency, how to be strong, but not how to be intentionally well. And that is why you're in the right place, because we're going to begin to learn how to be intentionally well. Part of being intentionally well is to understand that a lot of what we learned was survival. A lot of what we've learned was resiliency. A lot of what we've learned was strength. And let me be very clear. I think that those are things that should be admirable. And I think that that is a significant part of our history, but it's only one piece of what is required, I believe, to live your best, fullest version of yourself. Yes, there'll be instances in which you have to be strong. There'll be instances in which you just have to survive some things. There'll be instances in which you will have to be resilient. But if you don't take the time to intentionally recover, because resiliency is much more about recovery than how much you can endure, then you will not be able to be intentionally well. And so on this Wellness Wednesday, we're about to change that narrative.